This is the second of two tutorials on the noise reduction and restoration effects. We're going to cover the two process effects in that category in this tutorial. To follow along, go get this file, noisesmusic.wav, right here inside the working files noises subfolder. Let's take a look at those two guys. Noise reduction / restoration. You have two effects, noise reduction process and hiss reduction process. And with noise reduction process, you've got a capture noise print characteristic that you use with it. So let's start with the hiss reduction process. Hiss reduction, the way it works is you tell it what the hiss is. And once you tell it, it will then try to remove it. As opposed to the adaptive noise reduction process, which figures out what the noise is and then attempts to remove it after it figures it out. This is a better approach, I think. And with adaptive noise reduction, you can try to remove hiss or regular room noise, or let's say a fan or something like that, all within one effect. And that kind of all-in-one approach is not as effective as taking the split approach, where you have one for hiss and one for other noises. And these noises tend to be sort of generic noises. They last for a long period of time instead of, let's say, transient noises, which are just like clicks and pops and coughs and things like that that last for just a brief amount of time. So let's show you how this works. I'm going to use this guy with this hiss here. And I'm going to tell it what the hiss is. And to do that, I need to zoom in a bit. So I'm going to right-click up here in this time ruler and drag it across here to zoom in for that part of the file that has hiss in it. Again, you can see it right there. So I'm going to select it by using my selection tool, the time selection tool. It looks like an I-beam. Just drag it across there to select that. And now that I've selected it, I'll play it once just to make sure you can hear it. I'll put the loop on so it can go over and over again. There's a loop right there. And we'll just play it a couple times so you can hear it. Okay, so that's pretty easy to see. That's hiss. And now we tell hiss reduction to capture that noise floor. Now this button becomes active once you've made a selection. No selection, no button. Get a selection, the button comes on. Now we're going to tell it that's the noise floor. And it says okay. And it displays the graph of the noise floor and how much it thinks it needs to remove of those frequencies. So up here at the low end of the frequency, it's on the left-hand side, and it's up here in the graph, but it's actually the low end of the frequency. It's way down in the base level. It says I'm going to remove about 58 decibels. That's a lot of that low end. And I'm going to remove around 90 decibels or so of the high frequencies. And hiss tends to be high frequencies, but it wants to remove a lot. So when it removes all these frequencies, it's going to remove frequencies from the original sound as well. So there is this trade-off when you use hiss reduction. And there's a trade-off when you've got a lot of hiss in your audio. I'm going to click away from here so that it'll play right through that entire clip. But let's see how it works. And as it works, I'm going to start dragging these sliders here, which look very much like sliders you've seen before. The noise floor says, what level are we trying to remove in terms of the frequencies? And then here it says, how many decibels are we cutting that down by? So I'm going to be playing with this a couple of times as we go through here. Here we go. So you can see it found it right away. Didn't have to wait this time. And as I drag these guys around, you can see that we got rid of all the hiss. But getting rid of all the hiss gets rid of a lot of the music too. We'll try it again. Try to find some middle ground there. We have a little bit of hiss and a lot of music, but it still sounds like this music is coming through the wall. And it's not because this effect doesn't work well. It's doing its darndest to make this audio good. But the trouble is when you've got that much hiss, that much noise, it's really hard to get rid of it without damaging the rest of the audio. But that is at least the process, the way that you remove hiss using this effect. Let's move on now to the noise reduction effect. Effects, noise reduction, and there's noise reduction. Now, there's this grayed out thing here that says capture noise print. Well, if you have selected something, then this thing will be there ready for you to click on. But I haven't selected anything. And a lot of people capture noise print and then go to the noise reduction effect. But you don't need to. Just go to the noise reduction effect. And here's a little button that says capture noise print. So it's ready to go just the way the hiss reduction was. So you don't need to do one thing and then close it and then come back and do another thing. I'm going to move along to the next clip. Because we've already worked on hiss reduction. Let's just work on noise reduction like the sound of a fan. Here's a fan. You can sort of hear it rumbling in the background there. And that affects everything. So I'm going to tell it, here's the noise, right there, that's the fan. And again, you really need to have some passage at least where you can tell it, this is the noise, this is not the music, this is not the vocalist, this is not the narration, this is the noise. So you do need to have some place where you have only noise, but it doesn't need to be that long. Just a little brief snippet is enough. So I'll tell it, capture the noise print. You see that it changes the shape of the noise curve here. And now we're ready to go. I'm going to press negative sign a couple times so I can zoom in on this a bit. And we'll click away so we don't fix just the selection. And what's going to happen now with the default settings here, I'm pretty sure you won't hear the fan at all. Let's see what happens. That's a little bit. I heard a little bit there. So I'm going to start making some adjustments here, and you'll see how this works when you remove fan noise as opposed to hiss. It's a lot easier to remove fan noise, let me tell you. There you go. Try it again. So it's much better. We're getting rid of like virtually all of the fan noise. You can hear it a little bit at the beginning. You can see it down here in the view meter, but it's such a low frequency. Despite the fact that you can see it, that low frequency is not as easy to hear it, but it is getting rid of a lot of it. And if I wanted to get rid of more, I could drag this farther to the right in terms of what percentage of the frequencies I want to remove. And then I can change this farther to the right to change the amount of decibels I want to use. So that concludes my discussion of these two effects, noise reduction and hiss reduction, in this tutorial. In an upcoming section called Manually Identifying, Reducing, or Removing Unwanted Noises, I'm going to go back to the noise reduction effect a couple more times and show you how you can apply it in different circumstances.